Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome to the Wobble Enjoy Sports channel. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. 2 NRL rounds in a row, I've gotten myself a perfect round. Thank freaking goodness for that. Sitting at 66%. And now the game changes a little bit in the tipping departments. The NRLW season starts this weekend, and I'm going to make a separate video for that. I'm going to bring out the tips pretty much an hour or two after I bring this video out. Without further ado, let's get into round 21. Round 21 starts on Thursday night from WIN Stadium in Wollongong. The Dragons host the Tigers in this year's edition of the Spoon Bowl. This is the 44th meeting between the two clubs, and it is the West Tigers who have the overall record at 22 wins and the Dragons with 21 losses. On tab.com.au, the Dragons are the favourites, coming in at, hold your horses, $1.67, and the West Tigers are $2.20. Since 2020, the Tigers have travelled to WIN Stadium on 3 occasions, and the Tigers have the record at 2 wins and 1 loss, and that 1 loss coming last year to the Dragons. The past 3 contests between these two sides have been decided by 6 points or less, and the last time that these two sides met was back in round 10 as a part of Sunday's Day of Magic round, and the Tigers were able to get the win on that occasion. They got that win because of a 39 out of 45% completion rate, so they were completing at above 86%, whereas the St. George Illawarra Dragons completed at 72%. The rest of the stats throughout that game were very, very even. Going into the team list news now, so the Dragons are coming off the bye. The Tigers are coming off an unfortunate loss to the Newcastle Knights this past Friday. Starting with the Dragons, Sloan, Finge, Ravalawa, Lomax, Sully, Amone and Hunt are the backline. The forward pack, Molo, Little, Lowry, Burns, Dan Russell and Jack de Belin. So Dan Russell really did impress in his debut game a couple of weeks ago against the Canberra Raiders. The interchanges, Mbai, Molo, Couchman and Jack Bird finally returns from injury, and he'll come off the bench in jersey number 17. And we go over now to the West Tigers now. Buller, Norfoluma, Toa, Talau, Tupou, Dane Laurie and Brandon Wakeham. So Laurie in at the 5/8 position, and Dane Laurie has been linked with a move back to the Penrith Panthers from 2024 on a 1-year deal. That's unconfirmed, but that's what's going through the whirlpool at the moment. The forward pack, Utawika Manu, Coruscant, Clemmer, Papali'i, Bateman and Blore. The interchanges, De Silva, Pole, Seifarth and Alex Tawal. Really, really difficult game to tip. The Tigers, since that 74-0 loss to North Queensland, they have shown a bit more pride, a little bit more pepper in the jersey. And the St. George Illawarra Dragons, they did have a nice account of themselves against the Canberra Raiders, albeit they didn't start very well. And they faded out a little bit towards the back end of that game. But somewhere in that 60 minutes is not really good, but there is a good Dragons performance out there. Now, going back to their Magic Round game, Zach Lomax didn't play in that game, in the loss to the West Tigers that day. He plays in this one, and if Lomax and Hunt, more specifically Lomax, if Lomax can rediscover a bit of that form that he showed against the Canberra Raiders a fortnight ago, I think that should be enough. I mean, the right edge of the Tigers has been graphically bad defensively. I mean, whether it be Kapoa or Norfoluma defending on that right edge. So I'd be looking at a Matt Finge or Moses Sully try for sure. and Jareem Buller just seems to be scoring every other weekend sort of thing. So I'd be having him as an anytime try scorer. I think this will be close. I think the recent trend of 3 matches in a row being decided by 6 points or less will continue. And I'm going to go for, I'm going to go for the St. George Illawarra Dragons to win this game 1-12. A huge Friday night footy doubleheader lies in wait, and the first game emanates from Mount Smart Stadium, or Go Media Stadium. The Warriors are hosting the Canberra Raiders. On tab.com.au, the Warriors are $1.42 favourites. The Canberra Raiders are $2.90 outsiders, and this will be the 50th time that we've seen a Warriors and Raiders match up. The last time that the Raiders travelled to Mount Smart Stadium was in 2019, where they won handsomely against the Warriors. The year before is the last time the Warriors defeated the Raiders at their home ground of Mount Smart Stadium. The overall head-to-head record lies to the New Zealand Warriors at 26 wins, 23 wins for the Canberra Raiders. Going straight into the team list news, CNK, DWZ, Berry, Pompey, Montoya, Metcalf and Johnson. The interchange, AFB, Egan, Maratani Akure returns from a suspension. That's a handy inclusion. The interchange reads Walker, Barnett, Ale and Lassick. And just for some information, Curran has been dropped down to the reserves list, and Tamaro Martin has not been named as well on that reserves list. Going into the Canberra Raiders team now, they're coming off that win of the Dragons, or on the Dragons, and they're coming off the bye. Chris, Hopewade, Croker, Timoko, Rapana, Whiten and Fogarty, the forward pack. Josh Papali'i returns from a hamstring injury. Nice inclusion for the Raiders. Wolford, Tapane, Young, Whitehead, Horsburgh. Interchanges, Starling, Gula, Solo, and Ata Mariotta. Last time these two sides met was about 6 weeks ago as a part of the Jared Croker's 300th game, and the Warriors absolutely tailed them up big time. So there will be a little bit of revenge, I would imagine, for the Canberra Raiders to exact upon the Warriors, but the Warriors just never looked troubled. And that's the thing about the Raiders, man. Like, they sit in 4th position at the moment. The Warriors in 5th, making this definitely one of the games of the round. But the Raiders have a minus 50 plus for and against. The only team to do so in the top 8 at the moment, or probably for the rest of the season, if they can hang on. So the Raiders, they're really walking the tightrope here, because if they fall behind or have 2 losses in a row or 3 losses in a row, it's alarm bells, it's panic stations for the Raiders. But they are playing really tough footy, but it's unconvincing. Like, yes, there's of course skill about every single player on this Raiders team, but they nearly blew another lead against the Dragons. They nearly blew a lead against the Roosters and the Tigers, all 3 of those sides down in the bottom 4, and it's because of their first half of the first half that's really setting up their victories. So I don't think the New Zealand Warriors, who defensively were really good against the Sharks and offensively even better against Cronulla, they've scored 20 or 28 points or 30 points over the past couple of weeks, but just a bit of luck, and it's more so off a bit of luck, or it's off a high kick. Whereas the Warriors, man, they are throwing all sorts of things at defensive oppositions, bro. So I think the Warriors, I don't want to say 13 plus, so I'll say 1-12, but I think the Warriors will probably wrap this up by 70 minutes in my opinion. I still think this is going to be a really cool physical game, but I just think the Warriors will have too many points for the Canberra Raiders on Friday night. And without a doubt, the biggest game of the weekend, and arguably right now, it is the biggest game of the season. From the Sunshine Coast, it is the South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the Brisbane Broncos on Friday Night Football, the primetime game. On tab.com.au, South Sydney are $1.65. Brisbane are $2.25. That is serious value on the Brisbane Broncos, and it is the 48th meeting between the two clubs, with Brisbane still leading handsomely in the overall head-to-head, 31 wins, 15 wins to South Sydney, and 1 draw thrown in between. 5 of the past 6 encounters between the two clubs have been decided by 13 plus. I don't think we're going to get that this Friday night. The last time these two clubs met as well was earlier this season at Suncorp Stadium. So Rabbitohs, they've already travelled to Queensland once to defeat the Brisbane Broncos. There's no question why they couldn't do it again. In that game, Latrell Mitchell was a superstar, but Brisbane Broncos played that game minus Corey Oates, Ezra Mam, and Payne Haas. So they were not working with a second string team because you still had the likes of a Cobbo and a Adam Reynolds and a Stags. But they were just a little bit depleted in that game, were the Brisbane Broncos, who went down pretty big against the South Sydney Rabbitohs that night. This Friday night is, again, I reiterate, and it's pretty common knowledge now, it is the biggest game of the season for two in particular reasons. It's amazing how it all syncs up. On the team list, it is official now. Latrell Mitchell returns for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, returns to rugby league for the first time since a week before State of Origin Game 1. And Reece Walsh returns from suspension after he got sin-binned in State of Origin Game number 2. The return of arguably two of the most high-profile fullbacks in the game right now. It's worth the price of admission alone. And while it's fantastic that it's going to be a crammed, sold-out Sunshine Coast Stadium, the atmosphere buzzing, can't help but wonder what the crowd might have looked like at Sydney Olympic Park this Friday night. I'm sure they would have cracked well over 30,000, possibly even attracting a further 10,000 just natural or sit on the fence viewers or punters as well, bro, to make it 40. So yeah, maybe a missed opportunity there, but I digress. Let's get into the team list. So as mentioned before, Latrell Mitchell returns at fullback. The rest of the back line, Johnston, Tass, Campbell, Graham returns. Tane Milne, Cody Walker in a purple patch of form, if you don't mind. And Lachlan Ilias is the halfback. The forward pack, Totola, Cook, Sele, Kolowamutangi. Jai Arrow has also been named, so he returns after having 6 weeks off with injury. And Cameron Murray has been named at lock. Then the interchange is Taff, Havili, Burgess, and Host. Shifting into the Brisbane Broncos, it goes Walsh, Arthurs, Stags, Farnworth, Cobbo, Mam, and Reynolds. So Corey Oates still being hampered by an injury. Forward pack is Palacia, Walters, Hart, Capewell, Piakura, and Carrigan. So Tom Flegler is still out with suspension. I think he comes back next weekend. The interchange reads Smoothie, Jensen, Hetherington, and Marty Tapau. A blockbuster. An absolutely crucial contest. I do prefer the South Sydney Rabbitohs on paper, but this Brisbane Broncos side, bro, they are contenders. They are one of 5 teams right now that I put into the bracket of being a true contender to the premiership. South Sydney are the second of that 5. And it's not playing it safe, but I'm going to go with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I just think that they've had the Broncos number over recent seasons, and I think they've sort of figured out how to play Kevy Walters and the rest of this team, but it won't be a 13 plus points victory. I think this is going to be a really cool game of footy. Latrell Mitchell, oh man, it's going to be great to see him return. Same with Reece Walsh, but Cody Walker is the reason why I'm tipping South Sydney 1-12. Super Saturday has 3 games, and game number 1 is from Cbus Super Stadium. The Gold Coast Titans host the Sydney Roosters, and on tab.com.au, the Titans are $2.15 and the Roosters are $1.70. And this will be the 24th meeting between the two sides, and it is the Roosters who has a 15-8 lead in the overall head-to-head record between the two sides. The Gold Coast Titans have not defeated the Sydney Roosters since 2016, and that was at the Gold Coast. Since 2014, the Roosters have won 11 of the 12 matches that has been played between the two sides. But since 2023, of the past 4 games between the two clubs has been decided by 6 points or less. And again, going through the memory bank, that does make a bit of sense. The Titans have been a bit of a nuisance for the Sydney Roosters over recent seasons, and that is the stat that backs up that train of thought. This is a game where we see Isaac Liu and Sam Verrills, more to the point, play against his old club, his former club, for the first time. And in some stats here, this game features 2 of the 5 worst ineffective tackling teams in the NRL. So this could be a really fast, high-scoring affair. The Gold Coast are the worst for the record. The Roosters are sitting at the 4th worst ineffective tackling team in the NRL. And a couple of kind of milestones. Alifiana Khan-Pereira only needs to score 1 try. One more try to break the Gold Coast Titans try-scoring record in a single season. So he only needs 1 more. He needs 1 more to make 18. And then Daniel Tupou only needs to score 1 more try to break the all-time Sydney Roosters try-scoring record to reach 140. Pretty big opportunities for both those players this weekend. Plus, David Fifita plays game number 100 this Saturday afternoon, Saturday 3 p.m. Let's get into the team lists. AJ Brimson returns after being rested. Man, I think he's been bloody rested well enough in 2023. I think he probably should have backed up. Khan-Pereira, Kelly, Fifita, Sami, Boyd, and Foran. 4 and 5'8". The forward pack is Fotuaika, Liu, Verrills, Fifita, Khaleesi Haas comes in, and Aaron Clark. Campbell, Randall, Stimson, and Jacob Arlick are in. So Aaron Schopp has been dropped to the reserves list, or I can't remember if he played last Sunday, but he's sitting around the reserves. And then the Roosters, Tedesco, Tupou, Smith, Manu, Suali'i, Keary, and Sandon Smith. Forward pack, JWH, Turpin, Collins, Radley, Butcher, and Nathan Brown. And the interchange, Brandon Smith, Butcher, Wong, and Terrell May. But losing Tino Suamala-Aui in a game like this in particularly is a massive loss. Now, the Titans have won a high profile and taken a good scalp in the Brisbane Broncos recently without Big Tino. That was a massive effort from the Gold Coast Titans, so they have shown that they can do it. Tedesco, though, does return fresh off of a New South Wales Game 3 victory. If the Titans are... We know the Titans can score points, but what I want to see from the Titans, they've got to get angry, because JWH and Collins and the rest of them, it's been 3 losses too many for the Roosters, and the same for the Titans, but such is the high standard of the Roosters, and such is the dominant recent record against the Titans, they're going to come out firing. And if the Titans don't come out fired up, like effing fired up, bro, it's going to spell trouble. But I don't know. This is such a hard game to tip. Like, if Tino was playing, I would have tipped the Gold Coast Titans. I still kind of want to, though, because they're just playing a better brand of footy at the moment, and they've just been so dreadfully unlucky. They are the unluckiest side in the NRL in 2023 so far, or will be anyway. I'm going to tip Roosters. I don't want to. I really want to get behind the Gold Coast, bro, but when I try and look beyond this weekend, who's going to fall to 4 losses in a row, I can't get over the stat that the Roosters have just dominated the Titans since 2014, really. The second game on Super Saturday is from McDonald Jones Stadium. Newcastle Knights host the Melbourne Storm. It is the 46th meeting between the two clubs, and the Storm dominate with a 30-win to 15 record over the Newcastle Knights. On tab.com, the Knights are $3.25 and the Storm are $1.35. This is kind of the same thing with the Titans and Roosters game before. The Newcastle Knights last defeated the Storm in 2015. That's the last time they beat them, and that was in Melbourne. In 2014, that was the last time that Newcastle defeated the Storm at their home venue. So since 2010, the Storm have won 19 of the 22 matches that have been played between the two sides. That is dominance magnified, bro. And the past two encounters between these two clubs, Knights have just been absolutely ambushed and destroyed. 48-4 and 50 points to 2 are the two results between the two clubs recently, resulting in a 98-6 aggregate scoreline. Only 3 of the past 9 matches between these two sides, the Storm were not able to score 30 points or more. So 6 of those games, they've scored 30, 40, 50 points, man. So they know how to score points against the Newcastle Knights. The only thing that I can read into a form or a path or a way the Knights could beat the Storm is that the Storm are the 5th worst tackling team in the NRL, and the Newcastle Knights are 4th best. They are the 4th best for not missing their tackles. The Storm are the 5th worst for missing their tackles. And if Knights can play to their absolute best capabilities, they have a style of play that could trouble the Storm. If they can play as fast as they want, if they can remain from playing dumb, ill-disciplined footy and not allowing the Storm to get under their skin, the Knights can play some fast, powerful footy and really make it a contest. Let's get into the team list. Last weekend's game against the West Tigers, Newcastle, backline's unchanged. Sorry, Dane Gagai returns from injury for the Newcastle Knights. Apologies about that. The forward pack is unchanged, the starting forward pack anyway, and the interchange reads Mann, Saifidi, Hetherington, and Matt Croker going into the Melbourne Storm, and they are unchanged from last weekend's win against the Roosters. The forward pack is unchanged, and the interchange Wishart, Eisenhuth, Sims, and McDonald. I'm really sorry, but for the past 2 results, they destroyed the Bulldogs and the Knights, and they had difficulty trying to defeat the West Tigers. I think their form line is, I think it's a false dawn, to be perfectly honest. I think the Storm will win this game. A scoreline of something like a 28 points to 10 or a 34 points to 12 sort of a scoreline. This Saturday, I think the Storm will win 13 plus. And the main event on Super Saturday is from 7:30 p.m. and it is at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. North Queensland Cowboys take on the Parramatta Eels. On tab, the Cowboys are $1.42 favourites. The Eels are $2.90. This is the 47th meeting between the two clubs, and the Eels have a 24-21 and 1 draw lead over the North Queensland Cowboys. This will be Jake Granville's 200th game for the club. I cannot wax lyrical enough. I cannot boast this dude any more than what I already have. I love this dude, bro. He's been so important to the success of the club since his debut, bro. Jake Granville, man, kudos, bro. And unfortunately, Parramatta Eels have won 4 of the past 5 meetings between the two clubs, including that preliminary final loss last year. And it's vengeance time. It's a revenge game, mind you. These two clubs did meet earlier this season, but that was a state of origin affected game. Moses and Gutherson still played in that game. So too did Dylan Brown. Meanwhile, the Cowboys were without Dearden, Holmes, Taulagi, Ruben Cotter, Tamalolo wasn't playing, and we still got in of about an 8-point margin. I think the final score was 24-16, the final result, or 26-18. But with about 2 minutes to go, there was only 4 points in it. So the Cowboys, bro, I'm pretty damn confident about our chances this Saturday into the team list news. The back line is unchanged after last weekend's away victory over Manly. The forward pack, McLean, Hess, Robson, Leilua, Nene, and Cotter, and the interchange, Granville, Neem, Tamalolo, and Finafuiaki. And Laybutt has been named as jersey number 18. So going into the Parramatta Eels now, Gutherson, Sivo has been named. I thought he was done for 3 games, bro, because of a high tackle and because he's been raising his forearm all friggin' year. But Sivo's been named. That's going to change. So Sivo will not play in this game, but he's been named. Penasini and Simonson, Sean Russell, Arcee, and Moses, they have been named. Ogden, Hands, Paolo, Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright, and Jermaine Hopgood have been named. Regan Campbell-Gillard suspended for 4 weeks. Not for a malice effort, just a fatigued and inconsiderate effort where he drove his knees into poor Chris Randall's back. So he misses out for a while there, does RCG. And the interchange reads Moretti, Offahengawi, Davey, and Ryan Madison. Hayes Dunster has been named with jersey number 18. I would imagine he comes straight in for Micah Sivo. So I think that indicates that Sivo and the Eels will be challenging the charge of Micah Sivo, but I don't think they'll be successful. But if they are, they are. Whatever. Cowboys. Parramatta Eels, they're still going to be a real difficult challenge. Moses and Gutherson have been fan-friggin-tastic for the Parramatta Eels this year. But I'll do it. Cowboys win this game 13+. Now we move into the Sunday games, and game number 1 is from Bluebet Stadium. The Panthers host the Bulldogs in the 101st edition between these two clubs. And on tab.com.au, the Panthers are $1.02 and the Bulldogs are $13 to win this game. And the overall head-to-head is in the way of Canterbury with 53 wins, 44 losses, and 3 draws thrown in there. And going into the team list news now, oh boy, Edwards, Taruva, Tungo, Crichton, To'o, Jerome Luai, and Nathan Cleary has been named to return this Sunday against the Dogs at halfback. The forward pack, Leota, Kenny, Harris, Sorensen, Martin, and Yo. Interchange, Luke, Smith, Lenu, and Garner. And it is Jack Cogger who sits at jersey number 18. I think that is just about full strength of the biggest, meanest, scariest machine in the NRL. The Bulldogs, Avarillo at fullback, Wilson, Carraz, Alamotti, Skelton, Burton, and Flanagan. The forward pack, King, Marnie, RFM, Torpenny, Preston, and Waddell. The interchange, Edwards, Morin, Tavita Pangai Jr., and Jaden Ockenborn, jersey number 17. It is worth noting that Viliami Kikau has been named in jersey number 23. I don't know who he'd come in for. I don't know who would get the chop come game day, but we'll see what happens. But Kikau has been named to play. Just a couple of things. Canterbury have not beaten Penrith since 2019, full stop. They haven't beaten Penrith in Penrith since 2016. Also, the past 2 games Dylan Edwards has played against the Bulldogs, he has scored 2 tries. So maybe if you want to go on Dylan Edwards to be an anytime try scorer, I think that's a stat that goes well on the way or will go in the favour of Dylan Edwards. I'm real sorry, Dogs fans, but Toby Sexton made you guys look good for a game and a half. When Toby Sexton went off, the entire complexion of this team changed, bro. I'm real sorry, but I think the Panthers win this one by at least 30 points this Sunday. And the final game of round 21 is a Battle of the Beaches match. It is the Sharks versus the Sea Eagles from PointsBet Stadium. It is the 98th meeting between the two sides, and Manly obviously have a 67 to 28 win record over the Cronulla Sharks with 2 draws thrown in there for good measure as well. On tab.com.au, the Sharks are favourites at $1.40. Manly are $3, going straight into the team list. Kennedy, Kutoa, Ramian, Tracy, and Mulatalo. That is the back 5. So just hold your horses about Talakai. Matt Moylan has been dropped. Braden Trindle is the 5/8 this Sunday, along with Nico Hines as the halfback. Kolfusi, Brayley, and Rudolph. Nickera, Jesse Colquhoun, and Dale Finucane, the back row. Colquhoun, I thought he was more of a proper, but he's going to be playing second row because unfortunately Teague Wilton sustained a knee injury or a leg injury this past weekend, so his season might be done. Hopefully not, but best of luck to Teague Wilton. But Jesse Colquhoun comes in jersey number 12. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. In jersey number 14, McInnes. Talakai is coming off the bench in 15. Jack Williams and Tom Hazelton, 16 and 17. Maybe a little unfair that Williams got dropped. I think he's actually genuinely been one of their better performed players over the past 5 weeks or so. And just looking at the reserves, Kyle Ero in jersey number 18, Royce Hunt and Daniel Atkinson have been named on the reserves as well. So Dale Finucane, also another huge inclusion. He's been out due to suspension. Going into Manly, we got Garrick, Saab, Kohler, Tuapolotu, Schuster, and DCE. And the forward pack, Paseka, Croker, Aloye, Olakawatu, Tuolangi, and Trebojevic. And then interchanges Madison, Woods, Kepi, and Matt Lodge makes his Manly debut in jersey number 17. While the overall record does lean heavily to the Manly Sea Eagles, Cronulla have won 4 of the past 5 games since 2020 between the two clubs. And I grew up in the 2010s where Manly just dominated. I just grew up with Manly always beating the Cronulla Sharks, and the hoodoo's real, bro. Like, no matter what the recent results may tend to suggest, Manly are still just the dominant of the two clubs, and we've seen Manly pull off upsets every other year, where the Sharks were expected to win, but Manly just have this hoodoo over the Sharks, and they nearly got him. Seagulls nearly got him earlier this season. They had a battle at Brookvale, not the Battle of Brookvale, but they did fight each other at Brookvale earlier this season. The Sharks, unconvincing win, 20 points to 14. Seagulls were coming back really hard in the final 15 minutes of that game. Yeah, dude. I'm going to tip Sharks, but not 13 plus. I think it'll be 1 to 12. I think they'll have way too many points for the Seagulls, who are turning out to be one of the least potent attacking teams in the comp. And that's wild, man, because their first 6 weeks of the competition were really good. Really, really good. And plus, they've scored 58 points this year as well, too. But I'm going to tip the Sharks, but hold on to your hats if they freaking get this game. If they trip over this game, bro. Yo, that's it for me, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in and giving this a crack. It means the world to me, and I just really want to take the time out to say thank you. Thank you so much for the support. Really looking forward to the NRLW kicking off this weekend. It's got some cracking contests. Hope your team wins this weekend, except for the Parramatta Eels. And I'll see you guys in the next episode, which isn't too far away. Take care. Adios.